For my technology timeline, I wanted to start with the first personal computers. I wanted to start with these because this was really the first time we had technology that was small enough to take home. Because these computers used to be gigantic and they weren't practical to have in your homes. Now, I know that the first computers, really not many people had them in their homes, but they were still, I feel like, the first step into what we have today. And with that includes the invention of the internet in 1974. Now, one thing that I learned is that I didn't really know that the internet wasn't the World Wide Web, which wasn't introduced until 1989, but we still had the internet on the computers, and this is really how data was transmitted, which is definitely different than what we have today. But I do feel like it was, again, one of the first steps into technology that we have today. Then we have the GPS and GIS system that was created in 1983. And to me, this is kind of crazy, the just absolute jump that we have because now we can have Siri and Apple Maps tell us what lane we should be in. But they still had GPS systems that made it incredibly easier to get around and faster, but still very different than what we have today. Then in 1989, like I said earlier, we have the invention of the World Wide Web, which is a lot more like what we have today. Then we have Google, which again, to me, when I think of the internet or the World Wide Web, my head goes straight to Google. But again, that's something different. After that, in 2001, we bought our first home computer. And although I was born in 2000 and don't really remember this, we do still have this computer. And for the most part, it's just sat on a desk. But this past Christmas, we decided that we wanted to try to turn it on. And I was shocked to see that it actually turned on. And we went through it, and it still has like Microsoft and Windows 5 on it. And I'm pretty sure we're up to like Windows 12. So it's a little bit out of date, but it still works. And I do think that's also a testament to the technology that they used to have, that this computer is still going to turn on. Then in 2004, we have the invention of Facebook. And this is one of the first social media sites, which I think is important to note because social media has really taken over the 21st century, and this is one of the first looks into it. Then next you have YouTube, which again is a huge social media source, and I think one that's become even more relevant today as you have all these people who are becoming famous because of YouTube. Then in 2007, they had the first iPhone, and this is when Apple really started to take off. And I really think this is what changed our world of technology was Apple. Then in 2011, I got my first phone, and it was this red slide phone, and all it could do was send texts. There were 3 games you could play, and it could only take about 30 pictures. And I was thinking about it and remembering what it was like to be able to text my friends. And I remembered that I always had to be very cautious about how much I texted them because we still had a certain number of texts that we could send to each other, which is crazy to think about that and think about the fact that now we're talking about unlimited data. And when we first had phones, you didn't even have unlimited texts. Then in 2012, when I was in the 5th grade, I purchased myself a refurbished iPad 2. And I remember thinking that this just had to be the height of luxury. And I still have this iPad and it still works. It still turns on. I haven't done like any of the updates on it because I'm afraid that that's going to fry it, but I do still have it. Then in 2013, I got my very first iPhone. And I remember thinking that I was like one of the last people to receive an iPhone in the entire 7th grade. And I really was just one of the last ones in my friend group to get one. But I got a gold iPhone 5S. Then in 2016, we have the first Amazon package delivered by drone, which is something that's crazy to me that you can order something and that it can be there in just a few hours. I remember I was ordering something off Amazon and it was like, it'll be delivered the next day. And the next day was a Sunday. And I didn't even know that they could deliver on Sundays. Then in 2019, we have me getting my first MacBook Pro. And I was always growing up with PCs, so getting a MacBook was something very new to me. But throughout all this technology, I think there are so many things that we've learned and so many ways that we've grown, and so many ways that we can now incorporate all this technology into the classroom.